Hello, welcome to the FanDuel Punch-Out. I'm Big Italy 42. He's Chris Ruckus at Space Jam 23 DFS, and we're talking about tonight's slate. Tuesday night, lots of games on tap, and a lot of good pitchers on the mound. Not quite as many as last night, and hopefully we avoid landmines like Felix Hernandez. So before we've heard what's actually happened to Felix Hernandez, seems to me something was wrong. We saw 5 walks in 2 innings, so obviously something's up with him. But either way, a lot of guys pitching well that are on tonight's slate. Max Scherzer, $12,000, most expensive by far tonight. And he gets Toronto. Obviously not an ideal lineup, but a lineup that hits lefties a lot better than they hit righties. And Scherzer, big-time upside, 30.4% strikeout rate. If you're looking for a cash game play and you're wanting to pay up, I think he's a fine play. But I don't think he's a necessity at $12K. What do you think?
No, I think $12K is against the Blue Jays. That's a little bit rough. I mean, obviously it's Scherzer, but also Blue Jays can hit the ball. I think that's too much actually for Scherzer. I'll probably look a little bit down. Chris Archer, obviously, is in a good spot against the Angels in a pitcher's park. Also, I think one of the interesting plays of the night will be Noah, my man, Marvel Comics, Thor, don't you know, Syndergaard. No, if you like that, give me a call. I'll have you talk to my agent. We'll be all set.
Call me, Noah.
Call me, Noah. Against Ian Kennedy in Petco, I mean, I like Syndergaard. DeGrom had his way with him last night. Thor, I love him tonight. I think his price is pretty fair, 8.3K. I think that's a fair price for him. And then also, I mean, Ian Kennedy's 7K against the Mets. They did smash last night, but Ian Kennedy is still 7K. That's pretty cheap.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's a couple other guys. You're obviously not playing Greinke in Coors. If you played Kershaw in Coors last night, he did fine. But let's be honest, Greinke is not Clayton Kershaw, despite how you think he's looked this year. Johnny Cueto certainly played 10.7, but it's his first game back from an injury. He does get a great matchup against Philly. I think he's fine, but I'm with you. I think Chris Archer is going to be the guy I'll use the most at 9.7. I mean, he's been incredible this year. Actually has a higher strikeout rate than Max Scherzer, 30.7%. You don't expect 8 innings, 2 hits, 12 Ks like he had last time out, but, I mean, this guy's just absolutely dominant, and you're not really that concerned about the Angels' offense. Yes, they are starting to hit, but they're still one of the worst lineups in the league against right-handed pitching. So, also, I'm looking at Jeff Samardzija against Texas in GPPs. I don't think he's a bad secondary cash option either. I mean, the guy's pitching deep, 8-8-7 his last couple games, 5-9-5 strikeouts. Didn't even get the win last time out. Still ended up with 12 points, and that was at the Rogers Center, so that's a tough matchup. Now a much easier one at Texas. You're really worried about Prince Fielder and maybe Adrian Beltre, and that's about it with that lineup.
I mean, yeah, I think you're a fan of Samardzija, aren't you? Why don't you tell us what Samardzija did for you?
Oh, I mean, Samardzija definitely led me to some money. My last big score, I got second in the Grand Slam behind Jeff Samardzija. So he was a guy who, you know, I mean, he's just always underappreciated because he's not a sexy pick. He's a guy who was a great ground ball pitcher, great strikeout pitcher, but hasn't really shown it that much this year. But at times he shows his big upside, like that Minnesota game with the 9 Ks and the win. I mean, he can pitch deep into games. He's efficient. And like I said, really not worried about many hitters in this Texas lineup because top to bottom, still not a very good lineup at all.
You know, I can't help but think of Tommy Two-Tone when I look at his box score with the 8, 6, 7, 5s all over. I mean, maybe he doesn't get the 3 or the O, but maybe he gets a 9-inning complete game tomorrow night for Tommy Two-Tone. Just saying. So, you know, Jeff Samardzija, not a bad play. I mean, you know who I think is interesting? And I don't know if people are actually going to be on him. I don't know why, but Colin McHugh.
You know how I feel about Colin McHugh. I love
that's why I said I'm just going to roster Colby Lewis and call it a night.
Don't do that. Do not do that. What you should be doing though is getting some Clay Buchholz in some tournaments because Minnesota's been bad against righties. They're much better against lefties. He's had his moments. He's been pitching deep in the games. I do like him in GPPs. And if not him, Chris Heston at 6.9K is about as low as I'll go. and not feel awful about it for
How low do you go?
I go 6.9K tonight. That's how low I go.
Do you go down low?
I do not go lower than that. Who you got lower than that? Nobody.
Do you take it to the top?
Oh, to like the top, Max Scherzer? Yeah, I'll take Max Scherzer. Why not?
Just having a little bit of fun right now. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much. I think Chris Archer clearly is the top option. I think with Price. I mean, the guy, his last outing against Seattle, he didn't get the win and he got 20 fantasy points.
Yep.
He didn't. Usually guys are scraping the barrel to get 18 with a win and they're happy. He got 20 without the win. So I think Chris Archer is your clear top option, and on to the catcher.
All right, let's move on here to catcher, where there's not a ton of options to love, despite it being a big slate. If you like Stephen Vogt against Alfredo Simon, Simon's been really good against righties, not so good against lefties. We know Vogt, obviously a hotter start to the season, but he's certainly in play here against him. Some other guys to consider. If you're looking down, you're gonna have to get your cheap guys. You got a lot of guys in some tougher matchups. Derek Norris gets center guard. Not a way I'm trying to look. Michael McHenry, normally you'd play him in cores, but he's got Zach Greinke. Then you're looking at next at some cheaper guys, because you're really not wanting any of these other guys. We got Wilson Ramos against Marco Estrada. I think it's a guy I'm really going to play in a lot of GPPs at 2.7K. How about you?
Yeah, no, he's definitely a fine play. Jonathan Lucroy, you know, he came back last night. 2.9K is a really good price for him. You're right. Catcher is tough. Catcher's going to be tough tomorrow night. It's probably going to be a punt position for me. I mean, Yan Gomes has a really good price at 2.5K.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good price for him against Guthrie. I know it's in Kansas City, but still, I think that's a really good price for him. GPP play, I mean, Gaddis, 4K. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm not seeing a whole lot there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're punting, there's two guys I'll go for.
Yachty?
No, he just doesn't have enough power for me in a GPP. For me, I'm going Mike Zunino because he's got upside. He's facing a bad lefty now in CC Sabathia. Or if not him, Sal Perez against Carlos Carrasco. You don't love the matchup, but at 2.3K, he's a much better hitter than that price indicates.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
All right, moving on to first base, Paul Goldschmidt. Once again, your most expensive option, 5.7K. No thanks for me. I mean, he gets a righty and a pretty good righty so far in Shelby Miller. I'm still not a believer and he's as good as his numbers, but I'm not paying almost 6K for a hitter against him. Adrian Gonzalez at Coors Field against a bad righty. Yes, please. 4.3K. Got that $500 bump from last night, so I'm certainly playing him. Elsewhere, you got a lot of other options. A lot of guys not in good spots, but Joey Votto. I know I always say it, but Sean O'Sullivan, god-awful. Votto's starting to turn it up here recently. Couple home runs in his last 3 games. Multi-hit game. 3.6K. I think Votto's going to be pretty much my lock at first base for cash games.
Yeah, I think Votto's your top option. I don't think it's a question. I mean, there's one person that's, coming right up his back, and it's really dependable. He had a right index finger irritation. I call it a hangnail, but Jose Abreu was at 3.5K. He's been turning it up. That's a really good price for him. David Ortiz as well at 2.6K against Pelfrey. Those are both phenomenal prices. And then finally, our boy from last night, man, Frederick Freeman III. I mean, you got to love Frederick. 3.2K against Josh Coleman. So you know how I feel about Josh.
Yeah.
I don't like.
And you get a hitter's park, so it's a great upgrade for him. And Colby Lewis has been terrible against lefties, so Adam LaRoche at 2.9K certainly in play for tournaments there as well.
Yeah.
All right, moving on here to second base. Jason Kipnis, your most expensive option, also by far your top option here, facing Jeremy Guthrie, who is one of the worst in the entire world, maybe ever, against left-handed pitching. He's god-awful. Kipnis absolutely on fire now. 4.7K, if you can afford him, and if you're going with a pitcher like Archer, you really can. I'm going to try to get Jason Kipnis as much as I can here, batting at the top of that order, that I think is going to do a ton of damage. I mean, it's a lefty-heavy lineup. They live for these moments against guys like Jeremy Guthrie.
One shining moment, it's all on the line. Thanks, way to go, Big Italy, shouting out to the Cleveland Indians that they have one moment for tomorrow. No pressure. But for any folks that were following Justin last night on Twitter, you'll know there's a couple BVP chasers talking to him. And just for you folks, hopefully you're watching his podcast since you're hounding his Twitter accounts talking about BVP. You'll know that Jason Kipnis' slash line 22 at bats versus Guthrie is 500, 542, and 909. For all you BVPers, he's not just a good play because he's Jeremy Guthrie's not good against left-handed batters. It doesn't have anything to do with it. It doesn't have anything to do with Kipnis being good against right-handed pitchers. It's definitely his 22 at-bats versus Guthrie that we're playing in tomorrow. That's for any followers that were talking to Justin last night on Twitter. But yeah, clearly your top option. I think your option number 2, Didi Gordon, 3.6K. I mean, he'll probably, if he gets on base, he steals a bag. I mean, that team, he just gets free range. You get on base, you go. It's great. And also, Jose Altuve's price seems to just keep coming down. It just keeps happening.
Yep.
So 3.9K for Altuve is a pretty good price tag.
Yeah, and people seem to only play him against lefties. He's pretty damn good against righties, too. And to further that Guthrie point, I mean, if I could hit left-handed, which I can't, but if I could, I feel like I'd be a pretty damn good play, too.
Listen, let's see that stance again. Oh, man.
I can't do lefty. I look terrible even throwing a ball left-handed. I can't do it, but
it's all right.
You throw me in there against a guy who's terrible against righties, I mean, I'll foul the ball off with the best of them. The rest of second base is not exactly pretty. Jimmy Paredes got a nice little bump down, 2.9K, if you don't mind him against Colin McHugh. Brandon Phillips gets also that same terrible righty, and Sean O'Sullivan homered in his last start in Cincinnati. Not that big of a park downgrade. Jace Peterson gets a bump, and he's had a couple really good games in a row here, 2.7K. I think that's about as low as I'm really looking.
Stop. No, it's not. Come on.
Who you got?
You're going one more.
What, Robinson Cano?
No, Chizendong.
Oh. No, Chizendong's third.
You said him?
No, we'll get to him. We're second still. You're behind.
My mistake. I actually just moved over on my spreadsheet over to third.
No, my mistake. Well, we'll start off third base then with my boy, Mr. Lonnie Chisenhall. If you know me, you know I love Lonnie Chisenhall. Not an Indians fan, but I do love Lonnie Chisenhall. And, you know, last time I got myself some Chisenhall exposure. Didn't work out too badly on the 27th there with that home run. And now he gets Jeremy Guthrie, left-handed bat. I will be playing a ton of Lonnie Chisenhall tomorrow. If you're playing me tomorrow night or tonight, you expect me to have some Lonnie Chisenhall and some lineups. He'll probably be my cash game play because he's so cheap and in a good matchup. Assuming he's batting 6th or higher in that lineup, I absolutely love Lonnie Chisenhall tonight.
Yeah, no, Chiz is a great play. I mean, I'm looking forward to this. He's not playing, but Joey Gallo will be. I think he is playing today, but he won't be on our FanDuel, but he will be very shortly. Keep your eye out for Joseph Gallo, a.k.a. Joey. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but the man can hit a baseball. He'll be priced low. Love him. Obviously, you said Chizendong. You can't beat it. How about Todd Frazier? 4.5K makes it for a fantastic GPP option. I do not think people will be on him. Same with Chris Bryant. I think Chris Bryant makes for a really good play against Brad Hand. 4.5K, both a little bit pricey, and the masses will be on Chisenhall, so I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and not a ton of other options you love, but I do love Evan Longoria whenever he goes under the radar against the lefty. Love targeting him in tournaments. 3.4K. He'll be one of my favorite tournament options really at any position right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
All right, third base, not pretty. Tulowitzki, 4.5K. No thanks against that Greinke. I mean, he had that big game against Cole Hamels and company. Had a couple pretty good games after that. Finally starting to get it going, but at that price against a righty, can't be paying that if you're asking me. Johnny Peralta, 3.6K is going to be my top option there. Gets a rookie tonight, 3.6K. I think he's certainly in play. Jimmy Rollins, the guy that I don't like to pay for, but homered last night, certainly in play at 3.1K.
What's your take on Zach Kozar? I think I like him a lot at 2.5K.
No, I mean, at that price, I mean, you got to consider Sean O'Sullivan, as we know, bad against lefties, bad against righties. I think Cozart, I mean, assuming he gets back near the top of that lineup, we've seen him down 7th, 8th at times recently.
He's all over the place.
Yeah, but I mean, if he's getting a nice lineup spot, I don't mind him. And he's got a great price tag, so you certainly got to consider him there. Outside of that, Ruben Tejada's batting second.
Yeah, no, and I think a lot of people, I for some weird reason, I think Jung-Ho Kang's going to be really high owned today. 3.3K. He just, announcers love to just go nuts when he hits a home run. And everything on Twitter, ESPN, Jung Dong, all sorts of stuff. They just love. He gets so much publicity that I think the masses. I think he'll be a decently owned shortstop tomorrow, which means I'm going to be fading him because I've seen Chris Heston throw some really good stuff, and I think he's a really good fade actually at 3.3K. When I do think the masses will be on him.
Yeah, and I think that's a fine call there. And if you're looking for other options, you already mentioned Cozart. I'm not a big fan of Starlin Castro, but I will be looking at Jose Ramirez if he's batting second against Jeremy Guthrie. 2.5K, and if it's not him, it'll probably be Micah Vilas, and 2.4K, don't mind him either.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the outfield. Bryce Harper, 5.8K. He's certainly in play, but, I mean, he's GPP only, obviously, at that price tag. Hasn't had a homer in a couple days. Also hasn't tried to pick a fight with anyone in a couple days, so proud of him for that. But Mike Trout homered again last night, up to 12 homers here. $5,000. He's going to get Chris Archer. He's your ultimate GPP play because a lot of people are going to be looking at Chris Archer. Obviously, Trout can hit anybody, so keep him in mind as you're looking through your lineups here. Elsewhere, you got A.J. Pollock is a nice tournament play against Shelby Miller. The guy just seems to get it done in his sleep recently. And then, of course, you got to throw out Jock Peterson, $4,000. All he does is homer or do nothing. And home run last night, home run the night before, Coors Field. Going to be a popular play once again.
Yeah. Let me go back to the lefties for the Indians.
Yep.
You guys got your one shining moment tomorrow. Michael Brandt, dog. You're the best play of the day. 3.9K.
At any position.
At any position. You are clearly the number. I think he's the number one play.
I completely agree with you. 3.9K is an insane price tag for him in this matchup. I'm 100% on board with you there. He'll be my favorite play as well. We got some other cheap options. You got Hanley Ramirez's price went up.
No, we're not playing. We're not even recommending Hanley Ramirez because he's burnt us so many times. And the very next night we play him. We play him in cash games. He's a perfect play. Silver platter. 0 for 4, 4 strikeouts.
I think it was 0 for 5 the night you're talking about. But yeah, I completely agree.
Give me Brandon Moss.
Yes. Great tournament play. Lefty against Jeremy Guthrie. Love it.
Give me Brandon Moss, and then if I do my pivot because his price is going up, but he's still producing. Jay Bruce, 3.1K against O'Sullivan. I think he's a great play. Going down, looking for a little bit of value. You're gonna probably. I hate recommending this guy because I don't know what's going on with him this season. But I mean, Melky Cabrera's min salary against Colby Lewis.
Yep. Probably
batting in the 2-hole. And then right in front of him, Adam Eaton at 2.5K batting leadoff against Colby Lewis. Want to pick on Colby Lewis. Finally, Marlon Byrd against O'Sullivan, 2.9K. Trying to get you guys some cheapies if you're looking for him. And honestly, that's pretty much it for me. Cheap. There's just cheap plays aren't they're not fantastic. Maybe David Murphy, depending on where he is in the lineup as well.
Yeah, and I'll throw out Gerardo Parra if he's in the lineup. Should be batting second. He's 2.2K. And then this once again going back to whatever the hell Don Mattingly's doing with the Dodgers. And I'm not sure why Alex Guerrero was not in the lineup last night, but he should be in the lineup tonight. 3.3K against David Hale. I mean, this guy's just mashed the ball since he's coming up. Still just not getting everyday opportunities. I don't understand why. But at 3.3K in Coors Field, I would love to get some exposure to him tonight.
Yeah, no, that's a good play.
All right, find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and find all of our great content for tonight's slate and every other slate at dailyfantasycafe.com.